But still now there are other farms that we have not visited. So we want, before we compile, before we say anything, we visit all the farms and see their state and know their sizes, so that we publish it, so that everybody will get its copy. If it
Governor Throw expressed satisfaction with this year's rainy season, predicting a better harvest than last year's.
Well, this year's season is very promising. It's very, 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 as you even you see last night, we had very, very heavy downpour of rain. That shows that at least what we are expecting. And if good season, you always know it from that. It rains in the night and daytime. You have sunlight with a lot of heat. Then anything you eat, it will die. And at the same time, your protein also they need the light. They need sunlight. So everything is promising. We just pray to God that at least if it continues like this, if we continue like this for some time, we will definitely have a very good season.
Chief of Lower Salom, Ali Gay Toure, said these people were inspired by President Jammeh's personal commitment to agriculture, which has seen him transform his home village into a year-round farming enterprise. He therefore called on Gambians to emulate their president. The Kanilai Farm coordinator in the Central River region, Abdullah Boy, also said he expects the corn to do better as the season progresses, calling on the governor to provide them with fertilizer to improve yields. Mamadou Diallo, GRTS.
You can monitor GRTS Radio live on our website at www.grts.gm. We'll be back with more stories right after this break.
If you have any questions that you want answered during the holy month of Ramadan, all you have to do is to send us a text on the following numbers: AfriCell on 2020 200, QCell 3030 300, Chromium 60 60 600, or on the Gamcell line on 999 0909. Your questions answered this Ramadan on GRTS.
Welcome back. Over 90,000 refugees uprooted by fighting in northern Mali between armed Islamists and Tuareg rebels are seeking sanctuary in Mauritania. Mounting fears of an outbreak of fresh fighting in Timbuktu region has increased the number of arrivals in Mauritania over the past few days to an average of 200. Let's look at this report from more on that.
Here in Embera, in the south of Mauritania, these children who are refugees from Mali are trying to lead their lives as normally as possible. Most of these people fled the Timbuktu region when fighting began between the armed Islamists and the Tuareg rebels.
Today, there are about 95,000 refugees in the Embera camp. That's a first for us. Everything is calm and peaceful.
Over the past few days, the number of arrivals have increased to an average of 200 people a day. Back home, they have nothing left, no water, no food, and armed men are occupying their land. They've chosen to leave the north of Mali out of fear fresh clashes will occur between the armed groups.
We got here yesterday with nothing to do, nothing to eat.
This refugee camp is now the biggest in the area. It's 3 times the size of that in neighboring town of Bassi-Kounou. In order to deal with the massive arrival, Mauritania and the UN's refugee agency have decided to open another camp just 10 kilometers away.
Opposition protesters in place in Gabon have been engaged in violent street clashes. The opposition supporters have been calling for a new constitution and fresh elections, but the government says the rallies were unauthorized. We have details in this report.
Political tensions are rising in Gabon, where the main opposition leader, André Ba Obam, led an unauthorized rally Wednesday in the capital, Libreville. The opposition is calling for a national conference, a new constitution and new elections. The unauthorized march turned violent, with demonstrators using stones and empty bottles against the police. André Ba Obam says he won the 2009 presidential election that brought Ali Bongo to power.
People are being assaulted. Police are doing whatever they like. We can't accept that.
You'll hold the meeting?
We'll hold the meeting.
Even if it's unauthorized?
That's not our problem. Who is allowed to give us authorization? The government that does not exist? That is illegitimate? What government? These activists are marching for democracy. We want democracy for this country. The country is hostage to a group that is getting rich at everyone else's expense.
Between 2,000 and 3,000 protesters battled security forces. Street battles continued for hours with barricades, torched cars and fires that went on into the night. The opposition reported 3 people killed, a report denied by the state that announced that there were just a number of simple arrests.
No loss of life has been reported. The only damage is material, along with a number of lightly wounded people.
Thursday, the polemic surrounding the demonstration and the violent crackdown in Libreville continues. André Ba left the country in 2011 after declaring himself head of state. He has returned saying that he is determined to make President Ali Bongo, whose election he challenges, stand down.
WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has been granted political asylum by the government of Ecuador, and armed Taliban militants in Pakistan have attacked one of the largest air bases there early Tuesday morning. The attack left several people dead. For more on those stories and others, we turn to this roundup of news.
Ecuador has granted political asylum to Julian Assange, the founder of the whistleblowing website WikiLeaks that has published secret U.S. diplomatic cables. Julian Assange took refuge in Ecuador's embassy in London to escape extradition to Sweden, where he faces charges of rape. Ecuador is taking into account a risk that if Julian Assange is extradited to Sweden, he then faces extradition to the United States for trial. A Syrian Air Force fighter plane attacked the town of Azaz in northern Syria, close to the Turkish border. 2 missiles killed scores of people and wounded over 100. The declared target was a rebel headquarters, but the bombs hit a residential area close by. Azaz residents and wounded are now fleeing to Turkey for treatment and safety. In Pakistan, Taliban militants armed with rocket-propelled grenades and automatic weapons attacked one of Pakistan's largest air bases early Thursday morning. Clashes killed 10 people, including 9 attackers. The attack took place on the eve of a planned military operation against militants close to the Afghan border. In Iraq, a series of attacks across the country Thursday killed close to a score of people and wounded over 100. Baghdad and Kirkuk were targeted by escalating violence that, if it continues, will coincide with the end of the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan.
Over now to sports. Ugandan Olympic star Stephen Kiprotich has been given a heroic welcome upon his arrival in Kampala. The country's first Olympic gold medalist in 40 years has been presented with a check for $80,000 by the Ugandan president, while his exploits in London has also earned him promotion from the rank of a guard to assistant superintendent in the president's services. Let's go with this report for more on that.
A hero's welcome for Uganda's first Olympic gold medalist in 40 years. Stephen Kiprotich arrived at Entebbe International Airport to a crowd of supporters. He beat favourites, the Kenyans, to the finishing line, and his triumph inspired the country's Minister of Sports to promise more investment in the country's athletes.
We are suffering. A lot of athletes are there, but they have talents, but some of them, they have not yet discovered they are talented, but because we have no facilities.
Over breakfast with President Museveni, the gold medalist asked the head of state to have a house built for his parents. He was also presented with a check for $80,000, 160 times the average annual income for a Ugandan. The runner then received a promotion to become an assistant superintendent in Uganda's prison service, where he worked as a guard. And finally, a parade in front of his colleagues and supporters who came to cheer him on.